So, Sean, over to you if you want to take it away.
Yeah, I can kick us off. So, yeah, we're talking about AI. Surprise, surprise. Um, in fact, we were both at Accountex Summit just this week, and it was very heavily AI focused. So, kind of makes sense that the whole industry is talking about it. That's the subject matter for today as well. Do we want to do introductions, David, or does
I mean, we could do a
nobody
quick
want?
one. Let's people jump on, maybe.
Okay, right, yeah. Well, people are
Pad,
jumping because nobody
pad
wants to
out
hear about
time.
that
No,
anyway.
no, pad out time for 30 seconds. People don't really probably care who we are, but it
Yeah.
gives them an extra minute.
Yeah. Yeah, so I'm Sean, accountant evangelist at AutoEntry and Sage. I'm an accountant by trade, I guess. So many years ago, I did a degree in accounting and I worked for a firm for a period of time, but it wasn't for me. It was quite a sort of manual firm, actually, which is what drove me into the digital space, the software space, because I thought there must be a better way. And that's what I've been doing for the last sort of 8 years. So I worked for a few different bookkeeping solutions over the years as a sort of on the road consultant, helping firms to roll out new software, change their sort of systems, processes, that kind of thing.
Yeah, that's one. Thanks, Sean. So, yeah, I'm David. Again, I'm an accountant by trade, running theme. I've got a practice that I'm still very much a part of, but I also run and head up XU Magazine with an amazing team. So we set out a while ago to try and look at some of the main accounting systems and all of the different apps and add-ons that link into them. Because if you've looked at any of them recently, you know that there's loads, and it's just like, where do you start? Who do you go to, and whatnot. And we were producing lots of content for clients, and I thought, well, why don't we sort of try and build on that and create a bit of a platform that gives people a little bit more of an insight into what's going on, and who everybody is, and what they do, and how they compare to each other. So yeah, that's what we do.
Awesome. So yeah, in terms of what we're going to cover today then, so we'll take a little look at like what AI kind of is, I suppose, or what the new AI is. And the easiest way for me to show that certainly is through Sage's AI assistant Copilot. So you'll see a lovely video of that. And then we'll start talking about sort of AI more broadly. So the sort of due diligence that you need to think about and things that you need to do in order to help yourselves and your teams adopt and get the most out of these new technologies. We'll talk a bit about creating sort of a 24/7 fast flow of data through your practice, because that's going to be vital for adopting these tools as well. And then we'll look at, pardon me, just adopting systems and processes generally through the practice and the kind of things to think about and things to maybe avoid when going through that process. And then we'll finish off with some tips from myself just on like practice improvement plans, so things that I've kind of learned through change management and project management along my journey. And then we'll wrap up with some key kind of takeaways. And we've got some polls and QR codes and things at the end if you're interested in any of our kind of offers and things like that. So that'll take us right through till 2 o'clock. So let's open up then with just some insights, actually. I'll show them all. So we did a piece of work recently where we sort of surveyed just over 1,000 accounting and bookkeeping firms in the UK, just to understand their kind of where they were kind of sitting with AI and how it kind of felt with them. And so across the board, quite a positive response, I think, and I think that that's probably fair from what I've seen in the industry as well. I think people are quite excited about the opportunity that AI presents. So 61% of practices believe that AI will create more opportunities than risks, so that's good. A higher percentage are feeling confident that they'll be able to adopt it, so that's even better. And it will help improve, work-life balance, well-being, all these kind of things. So all the things we would expect or are talking about AI helping with it, it feels like that's what people actually believe as well. But probably most importantly at the bottom here is how important it's going to be skilled in this area. So it's a new technology. It's developing very fast, and so there's rightly so, a concern within the industry of like this lack of knowledge around AI and the skills with yourself and with your workforce to be able to adopt it. And I think that's where we as vendors and maybe yourself, David, as a media outlet and also a firm, being able to educate and spread that knowledge of AI and how to kind of approach it. So just some high level stats there to kind of kick us off. Just showing that there's a good feeling out there, and hopefully that kind of resonates with you guys. So what is the new AI? So from our point of view, it's Sage Copilot. So that's our new AI assistant. But you'll see them popping up everywhere. Zero has theirs, Jax, QBO will have theirs, and you'll see other apps outside of the sort of core bookkeeping that will have AI built in and AI assistants and things like this. So it's really prevalent and coming through in everything. But from our point of view, you've got Sage Copilot, so that's our assistant, and that's built into Sage Accounting and Sage for Accountants, our kind of HQ product. And we're developing further to kind of release it throughout our suite. So, of course, as Sage, we own quite a few products and offer quite a few suites of products in different areas that touch your practice. And the first ones to be sort of rolled out with the new Copilot will be Sage 50 and then Sage Intact as well. Sage for Accountants kind of encompasses our practice tools like AutoEntry, Go Proposal, Futurely. So they'll all have access to Copilot as well. There is a sort of early access for Sage Copilot. So if you want to sign up for that, you'll be on the waiting list for when we start to roll it out, and you'll get access to it first. So if you are interested in testing that out, then absolutely sign yourselves up for that. Yeah, so what is Sage Copilot? I can probably talk to this more from the sense of how we see it from Sage's point of view. So we see it as almost like an employee, an extra person in your business. So someone that can take away some of the manual tasks from you, and learn and grow, much as a new staff member would as well. So we're looking at Sage Copilot to help automate with your sort of task management or capturing of documents, real-time reporting, these kind of things. But I guess the real interesting aspect of it is the conversational interface. So that sort of plain language that you're able to speak to the assistant and ask a question and it come back to you. And just some of the feedback that we've had from people using it so far is exactly that. So it feels like having another staff member, which is great because that's what we're trying to achieve. Saves time, helps me find things quicker. Um, all brilliant feedback for us certainly because that's what we're trying to achieve with it. But in terms of what it can do, I've got a video that I can play next, which kind of shows some real use cases of Copilot in action. I think it's a couple of minutes long, so I'll play that now. And there are some gaps in the audio just as the demo catches up with George, who's voicing it over. So it's not paused. It's just there's some longer gaps there. So I'll play that now.
Let's take a look at how Sage Copilot can be your productivity assistant in Sage for Accountants. You purchase Sage Copilot for your practice on a user basis and can then easily manage the subscription in product. Here we can see the Sage Copilot subscription, and then we can go to Manage Subscriptions to add more users, for example. Assigning Sage Copilot to users in your practice is just as simple. Simply click Manage Users from the Business dropdown, and then either add or edit an existing user. We then simply add Sage Copilot as a product to that user and select one of two roles. In client management, we see an insight on the client list prompting us to start the self-assessment process. First, we can filter the list to see the affected clients. Once the list has been filtered, we can draft an email to these clients. This opens step 1 of 2, where the clients are identified and any missing emails can be added. In step 2, Sage Copilot gets to work generating the email content. Let's adjust the content by making it shorter and more informal. As you can see, it's still possible to free type additional content if required. The email can then be previewed, where you can see the footer that's been previously added in the settings area. And once we're happy, we can click send. Now let's launch into the practice subscription of Sage Accounting to see Copilot at work there. As you'll see, it provides you with proactive, actionable insights, giving you quick access to critical accounting information. Each insight is clickable, taking you to the exact place where action is needed. Here, we'll use Sage Copilot first to generate email reminders to clients who are yet to pay their invoices. Just like in client management, you can edit the draft until you're happy. If we revisit the insight, we can also manage automatic payment reminders. This takes you to business settings, where you can flip the switch to activate, then simply set your rules, check the email wording or draft with Copilot, and then simply click Save. Your Sage Copilot subscription in Sage for Accountants also gives you access to Copilot in each and every one of your connected accounting clients. If we launch into Canny Cakes, in this example, we're in Accounting Start. So you'll see Sage Copilot. We can launch into it either from an available insight or from the navigation bar. We can see all the insights, or we could switch to chat to ask business-related questions. Achieve more from your working day with Sage Copilot. Take a look at how Sage Copilot can...
We don't want that. Next slide. There we go. Yeah, so there's a sort of sneak peek of Copilot in action. So you can see it's quite proactive in pushing forward insights there. You've got that generative AI piece with it able to sort of draft emails for you, and you can change the tone of voice and stuff, which I think's really cool. But then you've also got that conversational interface, right? So if you're not particularly interested in the insights that it's prompting you with, you can ask it almost anything, and it will be able to get to work on the data that's available to it. So let's move on to point number 2 from our agenda. So the sort of due diligence around AI, and I think this is a really important piece to cover, just in terms of understanding the risks, I suppose, so that we can weigh up the sort of risks and benefits and kind of better understand what we need to think about when using one of these new AI tools. Sorry, pardon me. And so the first thing to kind of think about is probably just like your knowledge in the area. That's a really good starting point. And one of the things that I talk about is if you were in a position that your clients asked you about AI and the security concerns. If you felt confident answering those questions, then you're probably in a really good space. But things to kind of maybe to go out and research is just where's the data going? Where's it coming from? In fact, David, you and me were talking about this just this week, weren't we? About the use of these large language models. So just being aware of where you're putting that data and who has access to it.
Yeah, I think I was chatting to a couple of guys and they were saying that one of the things that they think is going to come out in the future is you're going to be able to sort of do a data request on like what have you put into different language models, like ChatGPT is one of the big ones about me. And I think because I was chatting to a couple of accountants who like use it a lot, like we use it a lot for different scenarios, but we try to keep it quite generic. And it's a case of you have that panic of like, actually, what data have I put in there or not? And it's making sure, because there's all sorts of sensitive information, isn't there? That if you start to put it into like a language model, like date of birth, national insurance numbers, amounts that people earn, all sorts of stuff, and then you're saying, oh, I've got a scenario of this client, this is who they are, help me out type thing. Like you just need to keep it generic, otherwise you're chucking information out there, aren't you? Like, whereas a lot of people, you don't think about it because it feels quite close gated when you're putting it out there, but it's not.
Yeah, absolutely. So, thinking about that, so who has access to the data, where is it going? I think is really important. So, whether you need to adjust your terms of service for using these tools, to sort of incorporate that you are using the tools to help with like scenarios. I think as well it's important to kind of, and this brings us on to the next slide actually, and to your point of like knowing the GDPR and data privacy kind of compliance elements of it. And I think it's important for us to think about that ourselves, certainly, but like our colleagues as well, right? If we're saying, yep, it's okay to use, taking your example, David, of ChatGPT, we also need to maybe put some kind of ground rules in place of like, yeah, don't use client names, don't put in like their national security number and things like that, right? So just improving our own knowledge, but also our team's knowledge on GDPR and what these important and sensitive bits of data are, is really important, I think. So making sure that you're getting training. I know from my side of things, at Sage, but in previous businesses as well, we've always had GDPR training every 6 months. That's sort of mandatory and we have to complete, and that just keeps it front of mind, make sure that we're always thinking, data first, data security. Of course, that's massively important for a software company, but accounting firms as well, you're dealing with very sensitive data. So I feel like, yeah, it's just as important. So having to think about that is really important. Thinking about your insurance, does that cover you for using these tools? Do you need to maybe extend the liability or add certain sections to your insurance if you're going to start using these tools? Areas to kind of think about, I think. So this applies, I guess we've talked about ChatGPT, which is outside of accounting systems. So it's not just accounting systems that have AI and are having more and more AI productivity tools sort of built into them. It's wider than that. And so across your practice, you'll undoubtedly use, Gmail or Microsoft Office, Outlook, these kind of tools, Excel. And they all have AI assistants being built into them now. Certainly, I've seen Excel's Microsoft's Copilot in action, and it's really impressive. So, like a very valuable tool, but again, just something to think about and be aware of. Where's that data going? Who has access to it? Those kind of things. Of course, we've had Amazon devices. I've got one in my room here, so I'm not going to say the name, but we've got Amazon devices and Siri and things like this that we can voice activate. So it's not new, it's just being aware of how that kind of impacts the data that you're kind of talking about. And then digitization and automation, sorry. So I feel like there's a kind of like a path that we're moving on here that is going into an era of AI. that poses the question that maybe it's no longer optional to be digital. Certainly with the advent of AI, it can provide a real competitive advantage, I feel. And so if you don't have all your data and your clients and all your systems working on a digital system, you're unable to kind of leverage the benefits of AI. So just kind of being aware of that. And then of course MTD's coming. So there's almost like a carrot and a stick side of things to this digitization, automation journey. The carrot being AI, for example, or automation and the benefits that that brings. And then you've maybe got the stick, which is the MTD. So it's being legislated that we have to keep digital records now anyway. That's coming in 2025, 2026. So why not get on that journey for the benefits rather than sort of being dragged along for legislation? So yeah, just in preparation for that, make sure that we're getting ahead of that, I suppose. Certainly, I don't know if this was your experience as well, David, but with the firms I worked with a couple of years ago for MTD for VAT, I was certainly banging the drum that we should, prepare for that and be ready for it early. But I ended up working with a lot of firms who kind of late to the party, and it was a real stress and a real like burden on their time to kind of get that across the line in time for the deadline.
Yeah, I think we were quite fortunate really, because we had spent probably like the last 7 or 8 years trying to get all of our clients into some form of digital processes, and then the last ones that we were struggling with, we just blamed it on HMRC and said, "Oh look, they're bringing this in, you've got to do it," type thing. And that sort of worked. That sort of worked really well. But I've seen the same thing. So I felt quite fortunate with that. But I've seen lots of other firms, who didn't. And then it was a case of just trying to create some sort of stopgap scenario, or right, okay, we need to use bridging software, or just something to get them across the line. And it does take up time. But I found with a lot of the clients, it's with the ones that we were struggling with near the end, once they actually make a switch, they're like, "Oh yeah, this is great." But it's just that fear of moving, and sometimes playing good cop, bad cop with HMRC works well. Like, it's not me, it's them. You've got to do it. I'll help you out, and we'll get you across the line. And that was the push they needed, really.
Yeah, absolutely. And so kind of talking about the benefits, I suppose that moves us quite nicely into creating a 24/7 flow of like fast data and high quality data. So of course, there's benefits to that just from running your firm and delivering your service as well. But of course, data is going to be the oxygen for these AI models, right? So if we're looking to systemize, streamline, and improve our processes, so that we can use AI, then we need to make sure that we've got that good foundation of data flowing in. So, receipts, open banking, client information, your different apps, everything just feeding into your kind of processes, and that then means that you can really leverage any kind of AI tools within those systems or external to those systems that you want to use. But talking about sort of high quality data from two different aspects, really are the two sides of the coin. So from the client perspective, we think about fast data as, everything's at their fingertips now. They're able to see their bank balances, P&L reports, cash flow insights, whatever it is. If they're using apps and things like this, they can kind of get this information on their phone now. And what that kind of means for them is they can, make better decisions. If that data is really up to date, they're able to kind of see like a trend or a cash flow gap or something like that, and be able to take action on it sooner. Helps them automate the process, so rather than having to manually update a spreadsheet or something like that. And of course, like I've said already, it enables them to be able to leverage AI tools. Maybe there'll be a specific AI tool within their industry, for example. So if they're digitizing on a great sort of automated system for capturing their records, then they may be able to use an industry-specific AI tool to boost their business, and that would be, thanks to you for getting them on that journey. And then from the accountant side of things, as I kind of alluded to earlier, that competitive edge, I think having that data in quickly, accurately, and sort of processed quickly enables you to report on it, and give kind of like client feedback and help them, give them insights and help them make the right decisions sooner, than someone who's maybe not fully digitized or not using these AI tools. So I think that's really important. Of course, that kind of helps you kind of provide like a superior service, which hopefully, brings clients your way. But there's the other side to it as well, right? So you can better balance your kind of workload, and increase your bandwidth by automating your processes. And you can do with that time what you want, really. So you could put that time back into the business to deal with more clients and grow in that way, or you could spend more time on each client and give them sort of more value-based services, so increasing your fees in that kind of way. Or it may be that you want to service the same number of clients, but in an efficient way that allows you to spend more time doing the things that you love. So whether that's hobbies, whether that's family, whatever it is, that time's kind of yours. So just some of the benefits from the two sides of the coin there on getting that fast data flowing in. Of course, there's other elements to your accounting business. This isn't an exhaustive list, but these are just some of the key kind of touch points with clients. And I think it's pretty safe to say that there's automation or tools or apps or AI available in most of these areas now. Just some areas to think about. So if you're looking at this slide and thinking about your practice, have a think about these different areas. If we take the practice management place, touch point there, sorry, have you got the best system and processes to really manage your practice smoothly? If not, then maybe that's something to look into and try and improve, whether it's through a new tool or through more features within that tool that you already have. Just thinking about that. And of course, there's more touch points. So think about all the touch points within your firm and where you could kind of look to make improvements.
I think just on that one as well, one of the things that you can have a look at is like across all areas of the business. So we had one recently where we had a dispute with a client and they basically got the arse with us and put in a subject access request. And I don't know if anybody's ever had one. It's a lot of work basically because you have to go everywhere and just find every mention of them and things. But obviously when you're pulling out that information, there's also potentially a lot of other personal information that might also relate to other people that is around them and stuff. And one of the guys who was sort of pulling it together from our side went out and found somebody who had basically built an AI tool to help with these kind of requests and go through, and it can systematically pull it out, go through and identify sensitive information that relates to other people and redact all of that to make sure that it's redacted properly on all of the documents, which was absolutely amazing because and we went through the process of making sure that these guys were good as well. Like they provide it to the police force and other people. So it's like, okay, that is good and they've got a valid background, but it saved us like hours and hours and hours and hours of going through and manually having to look for that data and redact it. And I think like we've got that built in now of not just AI tools, but just general tools across the board. We've got a problem or we've got a task or we've got something we need to do, rather than as just, right, let's just go and do it. Actually, is there something somewhere that can really help us with this? Because 9 times out of 10 now there is. And that's just one example that saved us like hours.
Yeah. Yeah, and I think that's a good default position to have is, if you're looking to do a task and it looks like it's going to take hours, probably worth half an hour of research into a tool that can do it for you, sort of thing. Yeah, no, absolutely. And then from an auto entry perspective. So how can we help in creating this kind of fast flow of data that's really accurate? I'll briefly go over this just because I know that we've been around quite a while and most people do know what we do, and I don't want to teach you to suck eggs. But for those of you that don't know, we're a data capture tool, so we're able to capture paperwork or any kind of receipts or paperwork in the forms that it arrives in these days. So you get that traditional paper, emails, you can scan on your phone or drag and drop items. So any kind of way that information arrives to you, bank statements is another one, you know, in PDF format, CSV, all those kind of things. They can all be read, processed and extracted by AutoEntry. That's leveraging a lot of AI technology that's been in the system for years. And then it's able to push that into your bookkeeping solution of choice. Now, of course, we know there's lots of solutions out there, and you know, not one solution fits all. So there's a good chance that you'll use multiple, whether it's for different clients or preference within your practice. So you are able to then publish that data from AutoEntry into a multitude of destinations. And of course, the benefit of using a tool like AutoEntry to get that data flow flowing is that it means you do have a fully digital process. So any AI tools externally you want to bring in or that are built internally into your existing systems, you are then able to kind of fully leverage. So thinking then on point 4 here, so updating systems and processes. So we're now kind of thinking about the idea of, okay, we've looked at the different areas of our practice and we want to kind of focus on one and improve it. Or we're going to introduce like an AI tool. What are the kind of things to think about when picking an app or changing a process? And so when it comes to like apps and systems, there's a few things to consider, and we'll kind of cherry pick as we go down the list here. So when you move, I think is a really important one. So do you need to create a time window to do the migration, or is there a specific time window that's maybe provided to you and makes real sense? So for example, moving payroll, you'd probably not want to do that mid-year, right? You would wait until the end of the year. So it might be something like that, or a VAT period, you'd wait to the end of a VAT period and kind of move opening balances across, that kind of idea. So thinking about the timing of when you would do a move. Doing research into your existing and the kind of future system. What are the options available to you when it comes to migrating? So is there an easy import export available to you? Is there a service provided by the new system that you're using that will do a migration for you, or is there a third party out there that specializes in data migration that you can sort of employ for a period of time or have a contract with them to do a migration for you? Pardon me, I've had a bit of a cold, so I'm sniffing. Other things to kind of think about. So making sure that you ask around, right? I think our community's become a lot more friendly than it maybe used to be, and the sharing of information is more commonplace now. There's a lot of communities out there that you can kind of join and ask questions in. So making sure you do lots of research there. There might be someone else with a similar problem in a similar area and they've managed to solve it, so they could give you some advice. Getting one-to-one demos. So every vendor that you speak to will be more than happy to demo their product to you. Absolutely take them up on this. Get them to show you in action, and you can ask the real sort of hard questions with an expert while they're live on a call, and they can show you specific workflows or whatever it is, so you can kind of really see the product in action. Thinking about the vendors, the size of the vendors may be something to think about. So I suppose there's pros and cons to both, but it's something to consider. I wouldn't say it's massively important, but something certainly to consider. Smaller vendors, typically they may not have the the funds or the stability behind them to always be around, but they will be very agile. So, you know, I used to work for a startup, and we were able to take customer feedback in and roll it out within, you know, one design sprint. So that's within 2 weeks we were able to change the product for a specific user need. So that's one of the benefits. The con to that maybe is that we weren't able to invest as much in product development as maybe a larger vendor would. And so that's a pro of a larger vendor. They may have more funding to invest in development across the board. But of course, being larger, they might not be as fast as a smaller vendor might be. So things like that to consider as well. Thinking about the cost, right? So that's obviously an important thing. So when you're looking at a new tool, how does that tool scale with your practice? How do they price? You know, so is it user based? Is it number of clients on the system? That kind of idea. So thinking about how the system that you're going to implement will scale with your business and how you're planning to use it. Do your due diligence. You know, when have they've done their price increases? Is it yearly? Is it a standard amount? That's, you know, fairly common practice. So just being aware of that. Understanding their pricing model. So, you know, whether it's clients or users or unlimited users or whatever it is, credit based, having a kind of think about those and whether their business models changed in the last couple of years or whatever. So just kind of doing your due diligence around the costs, because that's obviously going to be important for you as you roll it out. And then on the other side of that is you know, the cost to your clients, right? So there's a few different approaches that I've seen here. A lot of firms that implement tools will just absorb that cost because they believe and see that the time saving and the efficiencies that they gain way out, you know, outweigh the cost of the software. So they're happy to absorb that cost to deliver a better service or be more efficient in delivering a service. You can, of course, disperse the cost onto your client, which I've seen firms do as well. So they'll itemize out, you know, different software costs to their clients. Some clients, of course, might come to you having already paid for their software, so they might pay for it themselves, or a mixture of the above, right? So typically, if you are in partnership with a vendor at volume, pardon me, you'll probably get a discount for that. So you could pass that discount on to the client so they'd be able to, you know, get the piece of software through you at a discounted rate, which is a great client experience there as well. So just thinking about your different approaches there, I think is quite important. And then this is the bit I always find quite difficult. So how to introduce new technology to clients. And actually we were discussing before we kind of went live, David, you've got a recent experience in this kind of space. Do you want to kind of share that with us?
Yeah, so we did an acquisition in February of this year for another practice, and it was completely different to us in that it was just so old school. I think at the end we've counted 48 filing cabinets of paper, which is like crazy. So we basically had to take all of their clients from digitization, from no digitization, all the way through to like completely digitizing everything and the processes and the systems internally as well. So it was really interesting because it wasn't just clients, it was also some of the staff as well. So like to give you an example, there's a couple of the clients that were on accounting products, and you'd go in and there's just reports that are printed out in a file somewhere. I'm like, have you got access to this stuff? No, we don't get access to that. Like we just ask for it. I'm like, okay. But then obviously going through all of these clients that just haven't got any concept of it, which is really weird because for me, for a long time, I've thought how many people are still not actually using these types of systems and things like AutoEntry and just capturing invoices on the go and like Sage and Xero and whatever else it may be, just to actually keep everything on top of. And there was hundreds of them. Like we had hundreds all of a sudden. I'm like, this is wheeling back like 10, 15 years ago. And it was a real learning curve of going through a lot of them working with them again to say, right, guys, we need to get you off just come into the office, posting stuff into the office, dropping off big packets of paper, to let's actually get you into a process and working really well. And for us, that was amazing because internally we've just seen, like, revenue wise, the revenue's gone up because we were doing more for the clients, because they've come back and they're like, well, actually this stuff's like really good. Like, what else can you guys do for us? So they're starting to see the real benefit. And don't get me wrong, there's a couple that have dropped off and they've just said, look, I want that old school service. And I'm like, okay, fair enough, we can't give it to you. But the majority of the clients that really enjoy it, and for us, that's had the benefit of more revenue, but also the ones where we're not charging them anymore, we're doing the work in like a quarter of the time because everything is systemized and it's working really well. So we've seen lots of benefits, but in terms of how we went through that, it was just lots of conversations with the clients. So we would go through with them, sit them down and say, look, this is where you are, this is where we want to get you to, and these are the benefits that you're going to see along the way. And then you have to sort of sit there and just let them get their barrage of sort of negativity out of, well, what about this? What about that? And you say, okay, look, okay, fair enough, but let's work through that. And then some of them, I just said, look, try it for a month. And if you don't like it, we can just knock it on the head. And within a month, they're like, oh, yeah, this is great. So much easier. So it just takes that bit of time to sort of bed it in. And some clients we have to give a bit longer than others. Like there was some where they wanted to trust us first as well. And it was like, okay, I'll give you 6 months. We'll process the paperwork. When it hits the office, we're going to be scanning it in anyway, so it doesn't matter. But I'm like, we'll let you feel like it's the old way. And then once they trusted us a bit more, they were like, okay, I'll give it a go. So I think patience is a big one, but equally, you can't let it drag on for too long. Because I was like, if we take these clients on and let it drag on for another sort of couple of years, you sort of lose that momentum of, no, look, let's just get this done. So.
Yeah. Absolutely. And I think that covers everything on the slide, because that's a really, really useful and very sort of detailed example of trying to get clients to use technology and the troubles of how to do it, and then best practice as well. So yeah, brilliant. Thank you for sharing. And then on to our sort of, not our final point, but we're moving on to point 5 here. So like a practice improvement plan. So really just some high level tips, generally when approaching a sort of project. Again, this is not an exhaustive list. It's just some things that I've found to be really key when implementing a change. So assigning an owner to the project or the rollout, whether it's a process or a new tool or whatever it is, assigning an owner to that so that they can really drive it through and make sure that it's being held accountable to the sort of milestones you set out. So that's really important. That's if you have a team. If you've got the luxury of a team, then assign an owner, absolutely. If you're a one-man band, then the owner of that project will be you. So it's more about assigning time or protecting time that you have to focus on that particular project. Sort of planning ahead. So client segmentation, I think, is a really important exercise to go through just generally, but particularly when rolling out a change. So thinking about your client base as a whole and sort of divvying them up into buckets. And you can kind of organize or prioritize those buckets by whichever kind of parameter makes the most sense. So whether that's, willingness to change, it could be like their kind of mindset, or it could be, this industry is perfect for this product. So we'll start with them, or, their deadline's coming up sooner, so we need to move them, whatever it is. Just breaking that client base down into a sort of hierarchy of who you're going to move and when. Which helps you with your milestones. So thinking about your milestones, I always talk about when you're planning out your milestones or breaking a project up, you start with the end point. So we call that the critical event. So that's the last feasible date where if this project or change isn't done, we're going to start suffering, whether that's financially or whatever it is. Maybe the MTD deadline, for example, those kind of things. So a real critical event where it has to be done by, and then working back from that. So how many clients would you need to move per month, for example. So that could set up your milestones, or when would our team or colleagues need to be trained by in order to be able to use the tool. Those kind of things. So making sure that you know what those milestones are, and when they need to be achieved by. I think that it's also really important with milestones that you have them, because when you achieve them, you can kind of stop, take stock of where you are, and almost like celebrate that win, which really helps with the energy and the kind of motivation to see that you're making progress and kind of keep working towards that end goal. And to that point, measurable kind of KPIs to attach to those milestones. I think if you can measure it, you probably should, just as a general rule of thumb, not to the point of sort of paralysis by analysis, but if it's easy to, or you've got a tool that can help you to measure something, it's great to kind of be aware of these numbers and track them over time. Just so you have a pulse check on your business, but you can have a pulse check on the project as well. And of course, in measuring things, you can then see your starting point and your end point. An example I had once was I was working with a firm and they wanted to improve their margin. I'll just make the numbers up. So they said they wanted to improve their margin to, 25%, let's say. And when we actually measured, their timesheets and their output, they were already operating at 30. So just being aware of that and measuring things kind of gives you a really informed position to kind of set your goals and work towards them. So that hopefully that will put you in the right direction with practice improvement plans, but there's a whole wealth of information through change management. Is probably the best thing to kind of Google if you're looking for help with anything like that. So yeah, just wrapping up really then. So some key takeaways from today that we hope have landed. It's just that it's great to have a position on AI. So if you are knowledgeable enough in AI to have an opinion on it and have a position on it, then you're probably in quite a good space in terms of knowing the risks and the rewards. So just embedding yourself and having enough knowledge in the kind of AI space to have an opinion and a position is probably a really good place to be. Just knowing that your clients are probably fascinated by AI. It's in the news everywhere. Everybody's aware of it. And certainly with the younger generations, they'll probably expect it. So just being aware of that and knowing that they're probably looking into maybe expecting you to know about it and start to offer it to them and things like that. Just being confident in the fact that you're the route to new technology for clients, and kind of always have been. Certainly in the example you gave, David, you were the route to new technology for that firm that you acquired. And so, just trusting in that, we, as an industry, we have been through a lot of technological changes and advances. And so actually we're probably more knowledgeable than the layman in this space. So just have confidence in that and use that when speaking to your clients about adopting technology. And the last point I would stress is just, test it, play with it. That's certainly how I approach technology. Most people will give you a free trial of their software and things like that. So, have a go, use your own data, because that's the data that you know intimately. Test out these systems and you'll quickly and easily be able to ascertain if they're going to benefit you or work for you and that kind of idea. So yeah, absolutely have a go. Which actually brings me quite nicely onto our next slide. So if you do want to have a go, then you can do with AutoEntry and kind of start that journey. It's really easy to do. So you can just go to our website. There's a try now for free button, and you'll get 25 free credits with us to kind of test the software. So 25 credits, you could do a small year-end job, for example, with that, or run it in parallel with the system that you're using now and see if there's a tangible benefit to you using that. Yeah, so I'll leave that there. The only other thing I want to call out is coming out really soon is going to be accounts prep within AutoEntry. So just the ability for those clients that are maybe thought of as too small for software, you're able to just take 12-month bank statements and able to sort of produce a sort of income and expenditure kind of client trial balance that you could then push into your accounts production system, for example. So perfect for self-assessment season. So that's coming, 1st of October. So we're really excited about bringing that back. If anyone remembers it did exist before in our product. And so finally, we've got a poll, which David, I think you're going to help me with. So just a call to action for anyone. We've got time for questions as well, but just let us know here if you would like a demo or a trial of AutoEntry. You want to sign up for Sage Copilot or both, and we can absolutely help you with that. We'll just leave that
that
up.
should be on there now.
Yeah, okay, awesome. So yeah, if there's any questions or anything, I don't know if you have access to the Q&A panel, David, then we can answer them now, or if not, everyone, you can have 7 minutes back.
Seems like you've done a pretty good job so far. No questions in. So I
Right.
think you've explained it all pretty well.
Yeah.
Yeah, all done. So yeah, thanks everybody for jumping on. Thanks for that, Sean. That was great.
No, awesome. Thank you very much for having me.
That's one. Have a good one.
Cheers. Bye for now.